One of the most frequently asked questions that I see online, whether that be in barbecue Facebook groups or Reddit or even in my direct messages, is I'm cooking for X number of people, how much of this protein should I buy and cook? And I found that more often than not, when people are doing big cooks for lots of people, it typically tends to be pork butt or pork shoulder. And I think the reasons for that is it's really easy to cook and it's generally cheap, as opposed to cooking something like brisket for lots of people, which is expensive and can quite easily go wrong. So there are already some pretty popular ways to calculate how much meat you need to cook for X number of people. And that is to buy and cook half a pound or 226 grams of raw meat per person, leaving you with about a third pound or 150 grams per person when it comes to serving it. And it all depends whether you're just serving the meat on its own or putting it into a bun, serving it with sides, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to try and answer on camera in this video how many people does a pork butt feed. I'm going to show you some visual examples of portion sizes so you can get a realistic idea of how much meat there is visually, and hopefully it will help you to plan your big cook. And on that point, obviously, it's all going to depend on how big your pork shoulder or pork butt is and how big your portion sizes are. So there is no one answer to this, but I'm hoping to give you enough information in this video that you're able to make a pretty good estimate and make sure that you don't under or overcook by too much. So what I've got here is a probably slightly bigger than average pork butt or pork shoulder. This is bone in, and I went for this because it's something that you can get easily here in the UK, and it's something that you could pick up at your local grocery store if you're in the US. So we're going to get this weighed up. Obviously there's a bone in here. There's going to be some cartilage. There might even be some fat that you want to trim off. But to get an idea of what our starting weight is, we're going to weigh this. And that is going to be 6,383 grams or 14.07 pounds. And this particular pork shoulder doesn't need any trimming, so it's going to go on as it is. This is from John Davidson's. I picked this up from Pro Smoke Barbecue here in the UK. These pork shoulders always come pretty well trimmed, so nothing to do there. In terms of the seasoning, I'm just going to go on very simply with 2 parts black pepper, call that 2, and about 1 part Diamond Crystal kosher salt. Get that in there. Shake that all together. And I think the amount of rub that you apply is going to be very insignificant, but I know there are going to be some people out there who are going to be interested in how much weight I added in seasoning. So I'm going to put that in the description below. I don't think it matters, but it'll be there if it interests you. So we'll go on with a pretty heavy layer of this. This will all get re-seasoned again once it's pulled, so I'm really just looking to create a nice bark with this seasoning. Seasoning your pulled pork after it's been pulled is key. That is looking good, well seasoned, nice and even. So this pork shoulder is actually going to go on tomorrow morning. I'm doing this pretty late at night just to save myself a job in the morning. So this is going to go into the fridge overnight to hang out, and then tomorrow we'll get the 250-gallon pit fired up. And I've got a busy day tomorrow, so I'm going to be running the Chef's Temp Pro Temp S1. It's basically a digital stem thermometer in the style of an analog thermometer. That's going to connect directly to my phone and allow me to monitor temps remotely. And as I say, because I've got a really busy day, I could do with not having to regularly go out and check the pit temp. I can just check the pit temp on my phone. That's going to give me more time back whilst I'm doing things like editing and looking after my kids, and help me by allowing me to just go outside and top up the pit only when I need to. When the temperatures look like they're starting to drop, I'll go outside, play with the fire, put another couple of splits on, and I'll be right back getting on with the other things that I need to do. So we'll load up a pretty regular fire in the offset. As always, cooking with some oak splits. We'll get the pork shoulder onto the pit, run it about 225 Fahrenheit for the first couple of hours, build some good color, good smoke flavor, and really not do too much else until about 3 hours in. Looking good, really nice color on it, nice and even, some good smoke flavor building up. So now I think I'll bump the temperatures up to about 250 Fahrenheit and just keep cooking there. So pretty much 8 hours on the dot since this went on. My thermometer is telling me that this is pretty much bang on 180 internal, and for me that is about time to wrap. Fat cap is completely rendered, and I quite like that rendering, so I think I'm going to forward boat it. Take it inside, back onto the pit, and this is going to keep cooking. That fat cap's going to keep rendering even more. This is going to get nice and tender. We'll take it in, weigh it up, and see how much we've got left. So pretty much 11 hours on the dot, total cook time on this. This is probing like butter, all the way over, super tender. This is ready to come off, go inside, and allowed to rest. Take this off. So this pork shoulder that sat just behind me here has been resting for the last hour or so. It's at a nice pulling temperature, around about 145, 150. So now we're gonna pick it apart, take out everything that we don't wanna eat and discard it, like the cartilage and the bone, weigh those, and weigh exactly what's left. Everything that we would wanna serve to our family, friends, customers, work that out and see how it did. Bring our scales back. So, purely out of interest, our post-cook weight, including everything that we're not gonna eat, is gonna be 4,018 grams, which is 62% of our starting weight. And now we're just gonna pull this apart like we would anytime we're cooking a pork shoulder. Taking that bone out, came out nice. Weigh that and just go through and pull it. Always a big piece of cartilage in there. And just generally, this is some delicious pulled pork. Super rendered, really fatty, really well cooked, if I do say so myself. I'm just gonna go through, pull out any kind of membraney bits, any kind of ugly bits, anything that I wouldn't wanna serve up. Some really nice barky bits. That is some deliciously juicy, barky pulled pork. Looking good. So the amount of stuff that I pulled out of this, including the bone, cartilage, and any weird bits that I didn't particularly like, totaled 247 grams. And that's actually pretty low. It looks pretty light. Didn't actually have to pick out too much at all. But totals 247 grams on the dot, which is around 4% of the original weight. Not actually that much. Given, I think a lot of people consider the bone when buying and cooking a bone-in pork butt. Not a lot at all. Now we're gonna weigh up all of the leftover meat that is ready to eat. Make sure I get every little drop of it. So the total servable meat weight is 3,702 grams, which is 8.16 pounds and bang on 58% of the original weight. So we know what the numbers are. We see what that looks like as a whole piece, but what does that look like in individual portions? So to bring this to life a little bit, I'm going to show you what a quarter pound, third pound, half pound, and a pulled pork sandwich looks like. So starting off with a quarter pound or 113 grams, not that much, probably not enough for a sandwich. Then 1/3 pound or 150 grams. This is probably about where I put my pulled pork sandwich. Moving on to half a pound or 226 grams. This is probably slightly too big for a portion size, say at a wedding or even just a big gathering. I see a lot of people cooking for their church groups, things like that. I would say 115 grams or 1/3 pound is probably about right for that. If you've got sides and things like that, half a pound or 226 grams is probably going to be quite a lot, particularly if you've got other meats. Then finally, what I think is a good portion for a pulled pork sandwich, 150 grams or again 1/3 pound in a sandwich. Hit it with some barbecue sauce, or in my case, some Texas Pete's. Maybe hit it with some coleslaw and you've got yourself a very reasonable pulled pork bun. Add some coleslaw to that. That is a perfect little sandwich. And not that you're gonna have a piece of meat exactly the same size as mine, but if you're interested, this particular pork shoulder, the 14-pound pork shoulder, or just over 6 kilo pork shoulder, would yield me about 32 portions of the quarter pound, great to put on a plate with sides, maybe another meat. 24 portions of the third pound, which is 150 grams, perfect for going into sandwiches. 16 portions of the half pound or 226 grams. Great if you're serving this again, maybe with one other meat and one side, or if you're just doing the third pound sandwiches or the 150 gram sandwiches, again, 24 portions. Hopefully that gives you some insight into how many pork shoulders you need to cook for your event and how much yield you get from a pork shoulder. Obviously, every piece of meat is going to be different. The original meat weight is going to be different, obviously, but the bone size is going to be different. Whether you cook your meat hot and fast or low and slow can have an impact on how much fat you render out. Generally, the amount of water loss is going to be the same, but depends on the breed of the pig, all that kind of stuff. So there's definitely some variables in here, but it should be enough to get you started if you're not that confident with just getting comments from people online. Either way, hopefully it's useful. I'm gonna crack into this. Pulled pork and Texas Pete's. I know what half of you are thinking. Toast the bun, add coleslaw, put a barbecue sauce with it. Nope. I'm a simple guy. So all of that information is going to be down below in the description for you. You can hopefully use it yourself to work out how much meat you need to buy for your cook. If this was useful to you in any way, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, do all those things. It really, really does help me out. And I'll see you next week for another video.